Christopher Richard. Christopher, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guest today.
Yeah, I'm doing phenomenal today. Thanks for asking.
All right, who's our guest?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am absolutely pleasured to bring on our second guest actually for the podcast. Adrian, she comes with a wealth of experience in the marketing background, where she got her start, and we're gonna ask her some great questions about her business and what she's doing at 52 Marketing, and get to know her a little bit more. So super excited for this, and I know it's gonna be a great session.
Absolutely. So, Christopher, let's just go out the bot. First question for Adrian.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first question that I usually, ask most folks, right, is really how did you get started? Right. I think entrepreneurship is an audacious task in and of itself. So curious of, what was your humble beginnings and how did you get started?
Yes. So, Chris, thank you so much for having me. Neil, thanks for hosting. Really appreciate being on this podcast today. So it's actually a very just wild story, how it all started. I never wanted to do anything like business related. I had lots of ideas of what I wanted to do. I could be an astronaut, a vet, the president, whatever I wanted to do. And finally settled on crime scene investigation when I was in fifth grade.
Hmm.
And I went through this like whole journey of like, following that path throughout high school and into college. My first year of college was great, loved it still. I decided to actually leave and join the military. So that was another like venture I wanted to pursue along the way. Went into the military, stayed there for a bit. Also was doing my classes again to wrap up my criminal justice degree, which I did. And after the military, I was kind of like stuck. Like, what do I really want to do? There's things that happen along the journey, right? That re-navigate you.
Yeah.
And so that was one of these things. I was fortunate enough to end up in a government agency as a program manager, helping like veterans and their family who were in need, like to just get their footing back on. And
Hmm.
my passion for helping my soldiers really translated well over to this new role. And that was
Hmm.
really when marketing clicked with me. I really just loved the interaction that I had with the vendors and contractors. I was able to do case management. I loved my team. And I really just loved marketing, like making sure that people knew, like, hey, this is out here for you. Come
Yeah.
and see me. I can get you taken care of. And that was such a really good feeling because I was able to connect with the veterans and their families along the way and really shape this program into something that they didn't even think it could be. And I understood at that time, like, experience only gets you so far, right?
Right.
We always hear you got to have education, got to have education. So I decided to step away and go full time for my master's in marketing.
Hmm.
And once I did that, I had internships, I had jobs, graduated 4.0. And I
There
just
you go.
really had a great time, like, during that whole experience, because I knew that I wanted to do still like do something, still have my own thing, but how was I going to bring it to other people to help other people? And that's what it really comes down to is
Yeah.
I have all of this information, all these like really cool things that I want to do. I want to make it happen for somebody else.
Yeah. Tell me a
And
little bit
I
about how the experience in the military helped shape your entrepreneur path today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I was in for 8 years, and I started as a 42 Alpha, which is a human resource. And I stayed there, and I really did enjoy my time. I wanted to transfer over into like Homeland Security and do like DoD work.
Hmm.
Like I said, things happen and you re-navigate. But it really taught me through, how my path was in the military. I started off as a private, went into training, met great people, had phenomenal leadership along the way. Also had some bad leadership, right? So that really
Naturally.
kind of taught me, sometimes I'm going to have to be on my own when I'm helping my soldiers. And sometimes I have really great support, and that translates over into entrepreneurship. Like we can
Right.
find some really great support groups, and then we can find some people who you think that they're going to have your back and be good, and then they don't. And so it really kind of sets you up to be self-sufficient, right? And then also be able to help those along the way in peer groups. But really, it was just a phenomenal experience, like having, you know, my soldiers that I absolutely loved and adored to take care of. And again, that translates over to entrepreneurship. I like helping people. I like
Yeah.
trying to help you through whatever your circumstances are and get you where you need to be at. And that's what's translated over into 5-2 marketing. But the military taught me so many valuable lessons. You know, first and foremost, you know, you got to
Yeah.
have your leadership. You have to have your integrity, right? People have to be able to trust you. And the skills that I developed, you know, outside of my job position, um, you know, the fundamentals of being in the
Yeah.
military, those core values that we have, is what I bring into my life every day.
Yeah, and that's I think that's is super powerful, right? You taking those values with you, they're never changing, right? The world's gonna throw things at you, and it's your job to be that pillar of strength and stay where you are and not be rocked by your
Absolutely.
values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Adrian, so all this stuff, the military, I definitely have a connection. A great guy that started a foundation, some fantastic stuff, and some other different connects. But when you talk about it, so you went from that, when did it kind of become more and more entrepreneurship for you? You really felt it, you know, develop the whole thing with your story, with working, you know, in the military, then going on to learning these stuff, then getting your master's in marketing, and then to working for other people, to then finally it's going to be entrepreneurship.
So I've it's been in the talk for years, right? Like even when I started, you know, my master's, I was like, you know, I just want to do something on my own. I was very
Hmm.
happy um not being boxed in, right,
Right.
by what other people wanted from me. And that's where I was like, I need to figure out what I want to do for myself. And that's where
Exactly.
things like I
Yeah.
can be a fractional marketing officer for somebody. I can, you know, take what I've learned and put it out there in my own way. And it's been, like I said, it was years in the works. And then one day I was like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I did that. I registered, you know, with the state, and that started that journey. And even though like I had a job, I was like, in the back of my head, I always knew like it's not enough, and I just have to take the leap, and I did. And you know, I left, and I've been cruising ever since. But it was just taking that leap of faith, you know, and I couldn't have done it on my own either, right? I have a phenomenal, you know, support system with my family and my friends who have been encouraging me and had to hear all my ups and downs, you know, along the way. But it really just came down to, I don't want to be here one day and say, I wish I could have. I wish I would have
Mm.
done this.
Yeah.
And that was really that motivational factor of, you know, life is short, and do everything that you can. If you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, the what's kind of the saying, the pain of regret is far
Yeah.
more than the pain of not trying, right?
Yeah.
And absolutely love that, right? Just taking that leap of faith and just moving the business forward. Switching gears just from your personal background and how you got started, tell us a little bit more about 5-2 marketing today. How's the brand evolved, and you know, what is it doing currently to really, you know, help service brands as you mentioned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the brand is still the same, right? It's who I am. 5-2 marketing. People are like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it's 5-2 because I am 5'2". I'm a short one. And so that's how the name, it started off as a joke too, by the way. Like the whole thing, 5-2M started off as a joke, like just with the name. But then it was said out loud, and I was like, I
Mhm.
can't stop thinking about it. It felt right. And I was like, this is who it is, because everything that I'm putting into this business, everything that I'm giving my clients, that's who I am. That's me. And it was appropriate. It was fitting. It was perfectly authentic and holistic in the aspect of what I wanted it to be. And when it came to, you know, trying to figure out, like, you go through, well, what's my motto going to be? Like, how am I going to tell people like I'm different? Because everybody's holistic nowadays, right? Like it's such a word that's just thrown out all the time. And to truly be holistic and like still stick to who I am, the motto came around, think outside the octagon. So a lot of people are like, oh, think outside
Mm,
the box, don't be, strapped down. I was like, no, think outside the octagon is right. Because it's something that like my husband would always tell me about some of these ideas that I have, with different roles that I've been in. And he's like, I would never have thought about that. He's like, you think so outside of the box, you're outside the octagon. And that
yeah.
really just stuck and resonated with me. And so, that's kind of like how everything like formulated. But what I try to do now, like with my clients, is I want to make sure that they understand, when they're coming to me and they're like, hey, I need social media help. Like I don't know what's the right, platform, or my ads aren't performing well. And yes, we absolutely need to take a look at the analytics, and we need to look and see what you've been doing. Look at your creative. How is that being how is your audience receiving this information? Are you
Mhm.
putting everything out there that you absolutely should, so that people are like, well, what do they actually do, right? Because I've had a few of those. And it's really just taking a step back and looking at this from a bird's eye view and saying, well, I see what you're doing here. This is what we can do next. Even if, like sometimes budget comes up, right? And it's like, okay, we might not be able to get to all these places now, but let's build on this till we're ready. Like, let's build that momentum. Let's get this revenue generated. And then some of these like ideas that I have that are outside the octagon, right? Then we can start putting these in, little by little. Nothing has to be done all at once. These are building blocks. And very excited too with 52M. Next year, I'm actually going to be putting some stuff together for different nonprofits that I want to help. Like, part
Okay.
of my business model was actually to be able to help nonprofits every quarter, right? Just because they have limited budget, right? I
Right.
don't, and it's hard for them to do some of these things. They don't have the staff for marketing. They don't have the, contractors to help them out. So I want to be able to every quarter, like, start implementing some of the services that I offer, into nonprofit arenas.
That's very cool. What
Yeah.
would you say are some of the what would you
Mhm.
say some of those additional um um unique um validators for yourself? Maybe not, maybe validators was actually not the right term. How do you stand out from competition is what I was more or less trying to get to, when it
Yeah.
comes to all the different marketing firms and that go out there. How do you really know how to beat out other folks? Hmm?
Oh, absolutely. So when I look at, I don't want to say like beating out other folks, right? Like, I feel like we're in such a world, like, one, everybody's a marketer, right?
Hmm.
And so it is, it's such a saturated field. You have to be able to stand out. And there's also room for collaboration. There's really great, healthy competition and competitive relationships that can be had, but there's also room and space for collaboration,
Mm.
and in collaborating, being able to help each other, further. But what I want at 52M to be is taking all of these like different things that I have experience with, that I've done, and putting it all in one space, right? Having a one-stop shop, so people can be like, hey, here's social media problem I'm having, here's ad problem I'm having. But
Yeah.
we also say like, hey, have you thought about doing any like events, right? Have you thought about hosting any events? Well, let's look what event management looks like on my end. I also do grant compliance consulting. Uh, there's also corporate gifting, right? Which is something that a lot of businesses don't think about
Right.
either.
Mhm.
But it's very
Hmm.
important, not just corporate gifting for their clients, but also let's take a step back and what are you doing for the company? Let's look at some morale boosting activities. Let's go axe throwing. Let's go karting, right? Get out of the office, get out of that space where you're always 24/7 focused on your work, and you don't have time to actually build the relationships outside of work. Talking shop all the time gets boring.
Right.
Water cooler conversations only go so far, and having a healthy, working environment is more productive than, just sitting at your desk all day. So yeah, it's just became a one-stop shop, all around, from grant compliance, event management, corporate gifting, morale boosting, to what you consider, the content development, the social media, the ads. and podcast management, right? So it's just a plethora of different services, and it's really let's figure out what your solution is that I can provide to you.
Hmm. Well, a lot of different areas that you provide, and you're trying to go into the areas that you're very best at, it sounds like.
Yes,
And that's where you're
absolutely.
trying to, you're where you really are then, and also partnering with other vendors to make sure that your clients get the services they need. Specifically, there's no one size fits all, it sounds like, with your agency.
There, yes, it's absolutely true, and there never is. I did not like, that's one of the things I didn't like, Neil, right? I didn't like being in a place where it was just cookie cutter, because everybody's needs and everybody's goals are different, and you have to be able to have a strategy to accompany that.
Hmm. All right. Good, Christopher. What last question you have for Adrian?
Absolutely. Yeah. Last few question, really. Who's sort of the best person to work with you? If I'm, am I a newer business owner? Am I existing one? What are some of those walks of life that really resonate with you?
I do enjoy working with startups.
Okay.
I do enjoy that, because it's one of those things where, hey, I can tell you some of the things that, maybe I or somebody else, you dropped the ball on something, right? So being able to, put something in place before that ball drops is a great opportunity. Still very fresh in their mind and very excited and passionate about their business before, like, that fatigue sets in.
Hmm.
But also, more established businesses who are looking for growth, and that's my biggest thing, is looking for awareness and growth. I love doing these kind of campaigns where you're able to send out messages to your target audience and do so effectively.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Wonderful.
All
Appreciate
right.
that.
Great stuff for sure, Christopher. Any other thoughts you have before letting Adrian go?
Not that I can think of. I'm sure the question you're about to ask, she on the best way to reach out to her, right? But absolutely wonderful having you on. We're
Thank you so much.
absolutely exciting to, see the growth and any initiatives or anything that you have upcoming that you want to announce, and make available to the public.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the initiative for giving back to the community.
Okay.
The community, I really care about my veteran community, my, minority community, and just being able to give back is such a fulfilling thing. And I'm very glad that I'm going to be able to do so, next year, coming from, an impoverished neighborhood, and being able to say, like, now I can turn around and be able to give back. That's the best feeling that I can really say.
All right. Fantastic. Where's the best place
Awesome.
people can find information on you?
Yep. So you can give me a call or text. It's 317-528-0526. And I can also be found on LinkedIn, either under 52 Marketing if you want to follow the page, or Adrian Hollert. It's ADRYANNEHOLLAERT. I know it's a lot and it's going to get mispronounced and misspelled along the way, so they might have to turn it back. And of course, the website, www.52marketing.co. There is, it's CO. M is in the name, not the domain, guys.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
That
Have a
was
great
that.
one.
You too. That was special simulcast Neil Haley show and the Savant.